Let's see what's happening here. Let's make sure the internet is giving us another day to exist. Looks like they are. Looks like they are. Oh, it's happening. Yeah, it's happening. Let's just make sure the YouTube's awake. That's always the last one to wake up. And it's awake. How about that? What's up? It's happening. Good afternoon, good morning, good morrow, good day. What's ever going on where you're at, where you're tuning in. I hope it's great. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying well. I hope all your dreams have come true. Did you have a dream? Did it come true? Not yet? Did you try talking to the manager? There's got to be something you can do. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. I am Ron Placone. First of all, before we get started, let me thank the people who make this show possible. First of all, our friends over at ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea kind of rules, and you can get it wholesale. Got to need a lot of tea during this pandemic. Check out our friends over at ZT.com. They supply the tea for this show. And Jeffrey, big lefty, friend of the show, great guy. Please do show his tea company some love if you are able and if you're looking for some tea. Also, Trendiest Dabbers, our friends over at Trendiest Dabbers, they make amazing CBD pain oil that has done wonders for my neck. You guys know I was in a big car accident in 2013. My neck will never be the same, but this pain oil has helped immensely. So shout out to our friends over at Trendiest Dabbers, and thank you so much for the recent care package. And last but certainly not least, the Civvy app, CIVVY app.com. It's an app that compartmentalizes civic issues. It kind of shows you why these issues are important to your life, what's going on in the world. It also can compartmentalize which candidates and nominees are most aligned with your views and outlook on the world. They're also hoping to be a hub for independent media and online media in the future. So CivvyApp.com, CIVVY app.com. You can pick up that app. It's a cool project. Please do check it out. And without further ado, so we've been hearing about the autonomous zone in Seattle, which is an area where they basically, protesters took it over, and there's no cops there. And there's just so much going on in Seattle right now. So to help me get through it, I got an old buddy of mine. This is a guy that I came up with in comedy, Brett Hamill. Brett, it's good to see you. And you have a political talk show up in Seattle.
Yes, I have a quarterly political talk show, live show called The Seattle Process with Brett Hamill. We interview, all the great leftist politicians, activists, and everything that are up here in Seattle. Shama Sawant. We've had Ijeoma Oluo on there, who's the #1 New York Times bestselling author as of yesterday. Just all the visionaries and luminaries of Seattle. So
Shama is doing some amazing stuff, man. And it's one of those things, like whenever, I get contacted by a lot of people running for office, which and I applaud people for doing that. And everybody, it's always Congress or Senate. And I'm just like, why don't you try for your city council? Look what Shama Sawant's doing. Try for city council, try for mayor. What about those spots? We need Shama Sawants in every city. That's what we need.
Oh yeah, and there will be more. I mean,
I hope so.
Our city council, if you might have heard, Amazon and other large corporations bankrolled a whole slate of candidates for this last election, to six-figure, expenditures for each one, and they all lost except one. So we succeeded in pushing the council to the left, and Shama was definitely instrumental in that. And of course, now with all the demands to defund the Seattle Police Department, she's tried to defund the police department every year she's been in office. So she's already been laying the groundwork. So it just makes a huge difference to have someone, an actual voice in elected office, doing the things that the most revolutionary leftists on the ground are pushing for. It's pretty awesome. And she, you might have seen, she let the protesters into City Hall. She used her key.
So that's how it happened. So we have some footage of that right here. Here's the protesters going into City Hall, and this is from Alex Garland. Here, we can just kind of watch it without the volume so we can talk. But so here they are taking over City Hall, and then so after this happened, they took over City Hall, and then they formed the autonomous zone. Is that how it happened?
I'm not quite sure of the timeline exactly. I mean, I believe the autonomous zone, what they're calling Chaz, or I think my preference, the Cal Zone, because it's near Cal American Park. And I think that a food name is always appealing, especially if you're hungry, for a Cal Zone, maybe you'll hunger for, revolution. But it's all happened within the past week. So she let them all in there. They protested and chanted for our mayor, Jenny Durkin, to resign. And then they headed out after about 3 hours. They had speakers and stuff. And then, there's just a lot of actions like this going on. And it's beautiful. I mean.
And people are still at the autonomous zone. Like, people are still there.
Oh, it's an autonomous zone. So what precipitated that was that the police abandoned the East Precinct, their precinct house, which is right in the center of the Pike Pine corridor, if you know Capitol Hill in Seattle. And it's actually like a half a block from where I hold my political comedy talk show. So they abandoned it. And yeah, it's occupied by the people now. There's people going around with little wagons picking up garbage and recycling. There's stations where you can get food and water, even medical attention. People are first responders and healthcare workers are leaving their job to come down to the Chaz and see if they can help people there. And of course, it's covered in beautiful art and graffiti, and it's pretty amazing.
Well, and they've been having performances. Like, there's been live music there, and I'm sure someone will try to do a comedy open mic soon. It's only a matter of time.
No.
It's only a matter of time before someone's like, "How can we ruin this?"
I hope that day never comes. But yeah, people. There is music, and it's the heart of Capitol Hill, where you and I have spent a lot of time doing comedy. I used to live, 10 blocks from there, and it's of course now you've got like local propaganda journalists trying to spread rumors that business owners are being extorted and that there's like armed checkpoints and stuff. And then you'll look at the footage of what's actually going on, and it's some guy playing a folk song on a stage. It's completely, the divide has never been, because we're used to this. Like with Shama Sawant, people are like, she's an angry, dangerous, subversive revolutionary. And then you meet her and she's like, oh, hello. It's just
well, do we know the lyrics to the folk song? Because maybe the guy's folk song, maybe he was playing a folk song and he's like, you're gonna have to pay us a little bit each month for protection. Like, is that what was going on?
I don't know, but it's just the disconnect, I think, actually radicalizes a lot of people, because they see the local Fox affiliates coverage that there's like extortion and stuff. And they walk down there and it's people like, here, you want a snack bar? Oh, do you have a gluten allergy? Well, I have some for that too. And it's truly unreal. And so actually the main journalist, who's like Brandy Cruz of Fox News here, is the main sort of propaganda mouthpiece. She just critically reports whatever the cops say. She, with no real attempt at verifying it. Well, she did go back and try to find some of the business owners who had been extorted. And of course they were all like, no, it's great. Like my home theater where I have the talk show, they've been organizing since before it was an autonomous zone, and as a staging area for supplies for protesters and water and all that stuff. And they're stoked, and every day they're figuring out new ways they can help. You might remember Vermilion is a bar down there. It's like right in the heart of it.
I remember that.
It's like the last stand of like non-corporate, non-bridge and tunnel clubs or bars on Capitol Hill, and they're a hub. You can go by there and get some water and use their bathrooms, and everyone's just really stepped up. And it's a beautiful thing, and it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing like how the media. And of course, yesterday we had the tweet from Trump saying
he might,
he'll send in troops, and it's just funny because now
are you worried he might do that?
No, I'm not worried that he'll violate the Posse Comitatus Act or the Third Amendment, or as terrible as our mayor is, part of her brand is being a resistance Democrat. She's a corporate moderate Democrat, but I don't think she would allow that to happen. And it's given like moderate liberals an interesting gut check time, because they're like, oh, Trump is against us, but all the people there hate Durkin, so they're having to really reevaluate the whole situation.
So what do you kind of see happening in the long run here? Like what do you think? Like do you think we'll see like an extensive defunding of the police? Because I will say this, and this is sort of like the optimistic side in me. There are more people than I would have expected a year or two ago saying the stuff that a lot of us have been saying for a long time, where it's like reform is not enough. That's too little, too late. That ship has sailed. We need a total gutting of all this, and we need to completely defund the police, demilitarize the police, and revisit what it means to have police at all. Do you think that'll happen nationwide?
I can't speak to nationwide. I hope so. I mean, I think the Overton window has been pulled in that direction. Seattle is a particularly good test case because our police department has been under a federal consent decree since I think 2012, 2013. So our cops were so violent and used unconstitutional use of force at such high rates that the feds came in during the Obama administration and were overseeing reform in the police department. Well, here we are in 2020. Nothing has changed. Unarmed black people,
they've gotten worse. They've gotten worse.
I mean, it's objectively gotten worse. And so when police responded to police brutality by doing more police brutality and literally gassing entire neighborhoods, there were stories of like this one couple that gave public testimony. They woke up and their baby was foaming at the mouth from the tear gas that got into there. They had to leave their home because of this sort of military act, these weapons of war.
And didn't they gas a 9-year-old too?
They just pepper sprayed a 9-year-old.
Pepper sprayed, yeah. Pepper sprayed a 9-year-old. During Occupy, they pepper sprayed an 80-year-old.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, like if nothing happens by 2022, they're going to pepper spray a basket of kittens. I think that's what's next.
If they haven't already.
If they haven't already.
We need the body cam footage on that. But we've done all that reform stuff. So the Democrats, the national Democrats, released this thing of all this reform and use of force guidelines and banning chokeholds. And sure, do all that stuff now because there's more coming down the pipeline because none of that stuff worked for Seattle. And so we are a great example of like, we've done all those reform things you're talking about. When you do like use of force training or racial sensitivity training, a bunch of cops go in a room with another cop who trains them and they sit there and eat snacks. And it's the biggest joke. It's like something out of like, high school detention. Like it's just cops complaining that someone called them honky or something. Like they're not qualified to teach their brothers and sisters, anti-racism. This stuff, it just doesn't work. So one of our like sort of left of center, but still dabbles in moderatism, Lorena Gonzalez here is putting forward a process to basically dismantle the police department in the way that Minneapolis has. So now we know that like our progressive city council members, they generally will try to do the least reform possible to placate, the sort of moderate Democratic voting bloc that
well, not just that, but all the money they get from police. I mean, all the money they get from police and the, the police unions that have a lot of power and, in most parts of the country.
Luckily, the police union has been bonkers for so long. Just their Facebook posts look like something off Rush Limbaugh or something. So people have been alienated from them for a while. So most candidates know they can't, that it's actually like a mark of shame to be endorsed by them.
Oh, okay.
So that's not as much a consideration here. We also have publicly funded campaigns now, so you can run and get basically democracy vouchers. So basically cash money from the city to run your campaign. So they don't have as much of a stranglehold here. It's more just a naked protection racket. Like we'll pull enforcement off of everything and you'll see the city burn if you don't give us what we want. I mean, it's really, but it's, in our case, it's a protection racket in which our mayor went from being an accomplice to being a target of the racket because now they're shaking her down. She promised no tear gas for 30 days, which is the saddest promise ever made. And then they tear gassed everyone literally 24 hours later. So
this thing that should be totally illegal to ever do We're not going to do it for 30 days. We're 30 days. We're gonna have a truce. Then we'll do it again. Brett, I know you got to go, man. Thanks so much for stopping by for a minute and talking this. Is there anything else kind of Seattle centric that you want people to know?
Man, I mean, it's Seattle and nationwide. Support this uprising in defense of Black lives. Get out there, put your bodies on the line, or put some money in. Do what you can. Our comedy show that my buddy and I run weekly. We've switched to a home edition, online Zoom edition because of the COVID. And right now we're just pausing that. We don't think our voices are what need to be heard. So we're like, and we're not doing explicitly political, it's comedy. People don't need to hear that. They need information on how to support, where to protest, all that stuff. So we're just trying to be instrumental. I hope, and just as a fellow comedian, I hope this, there's a lot of all lives matter types in the comedy world that I hope their eyes are being opened now to that. And I hope I think that it could be a real revolution.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so too, and yeah, I hope in the comedy world too, and the other side of that too, though, is I've seen a lot more like I don't know. Correct me if you disagree with this, because maybe you do, but I feel like there's always been this sort of like, especially in recent years, there's always this sort of like apathy is cool thing going on in comedy specifically, where it's just like, yeah, I don't care. Who cares about anything? And it's just like, you try to make it out like you're a nihilist. Meanwhile, if Doug Stanhope said hello to you, you'd nut your pants. So it's like, you're not a nihilist. You're just not. There's certain things you put on a pedestal too. You put this comedian podcast on a pedestal that no one else cares about, that you and two of your friends do while you're high. You put that on a big pedestal. So you're not a nihilist. But anyway, I feel like that's going away some. Yeah. I feel like more people are like, no, this freaking matters. And it's on us to be part of the conversation too. Because the revolutionaries include musicians and activists and authors and writers and academics and comedians and all the above. And we're part of this too. And it's time to give a shit. I feel like that's happening more than it has in as long as I've been doing comedy.
No question. I'm seeing people voice support for Black Lives Matter that were completely neutral, as you said before. And I've seen like the manager of the Comedy Underground has started a crowdfunding effort to give out sandwiches to people that need them down in Pioneer Square. I've seen a lot of people step up, and I respect it so much. And I'm glad that, comedians, we have something to offer. Our commentary can be valuable when it's not just directed at, sort of poking at people who are already oppressed. So I think it's going to change. I think you have to, any type of artist, you have to let the times change you. I didn't think I'd be doing the things with my comedy now that I did back when me and you were running to open mics and stuff. And obviously you're an example of someone who has really let the times change them and redirect your efforts into something that matters. So it's cool to give a shit about stuff and to not be a bootlicker. It really is.
That's a good slogan, man. It's cool to give a shit now. It's cool to give a shit. Don't be a bootlicker.
It's okay. Actually,
you look that. It's lame.
Yeah. You actually look like more of a loser if you don't give a shit. So maybe, who knows what'll happen, but it's good things.
Well, thanks so much for stopping in, buddy. And where can people go to find out more about you?
You can go on Twitter at Brett Hamill, BRETTHAMIL. I just posted a new video about the Confederate monuments being torn down, or reposted a video. So I always put up some content there. I always see you up on my feed doing what you're doing. So yeah, find me on Twitter and join in however you can.
Thanks, man. Thanks so much for stopping in. And when this is all over, dude, I look forward to seeing you up in Seattle, man.
I know. We keep trying to get you up here. Shit keeps happening. So.
I know. Well, we were supposed to be up there in April, but then, of course, COVID happened. And yeah, so either before the end of the year, depending on how things work out, or definitely next year, we're getting up to Seattle as soon as we can.
Awesome.
Cheers, buddy. Be well.
Bye,
Thanks for stopping in. Peace. That was Brett. That's an old buddy of mine. He didn't have a lot of time to stay. He's a busy dude, but I wanted him to stop in and kind of share some of what was going on, with everything up in Seattle, because he's still up there in Seattle doing his thing. So check him out. Follow him on Twitter, Brett, BRETTTHIMIL. And so this is happening. So I got a couple interesting follow-ups. We're going to Seattle. We were in Seattle. And now we're going to go to my hometown, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for a little bit, because I got some interesting follow-ups. We covered on the show earlier this week, or was it last week? It doesn't matter. I think it was earlier this week. But we talked about the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which is actually not the far right-wing paper in the city. The far right-wing paper in the city is this other paper called the Tribune Review that actually may not be around anymore. I don't know. I'm not fluent in local media in Pittsburgh, but the Post-Gazette is the main newspaper of note in the city. And recently they came under some scrutiny, and we covered this on the show, where they were censoring police brutality articles and censoring coverage of police brutality at the behest of the cop union. And, well, there's been a little backlash about it. Check this out. This was actually tweeted by my buddy Alex, another comedian buddy of mine. And here, the screenshot's a little small, so I'll read it to you. So this is from Giant Eagle. Now, if you're not familiar with Western Pennsylvania, you might not know what that is. Giant Eagle is basically, they have a near monopoly on the grocery stores in the Western Pennsylvania area. So what happened was, years ago, Kroger was just starting to form. And I'm sure that everybody watching this has heard of Kroger. And they split. Some of the people involved with forming the early Kroger, they split. And the agreement that was reached upon was that one party said to the other, hey, you can go wherever you want. You can spread throughout the country, do whatever you want, have your fun. Just don't come to Western Pennsylvania. And the other party said, okay, cool. I guess that other group really liked Western Pennsylvania, wanted to stay there, and the other group wanted to go all over the place. So that other group went on to become Kroger as we know it, and all the Kroger affiliates that we know as grocery store suppliers. And the other group went on to become Giant Eagle. And GetGo is kind of under that umbrella. And they have marketplace stores where they have nicer groceries. So it actually allowed a kind of near monopolization of groceries in the Western Pennsylvania area. As a result of that, groceries are kind of expensive. If you look at a cost of living index, Western Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh, it's among the cheaper cities in the country. But if you look at the cost of living index, how they'll have everything, like they'll have like rent and they'll have all these issues. You'll notice that food is like way higher than almost everything else. Like rent is cheap in Western Pennsylvania. Utilities are cheap. Getting a drink at a bar is cheap. Eating out is pretty cheap. Like it's a pretty affordable place. But then all of a sudden you'll see clothes are very cheap because they don't have the tax on clothes. So it's a good place. I mean, usually when I buy my clothes, I buy them there. Like I'll when I'm home for the holidays or something, I'll try to buy my clothes because it's cheaper there than in California. And but then you'll notice food is like way higher, and this is why. So that's what Giant Eagle is. So that just shows you how vast Giant Eagle is. Well, here's what they're doing. It is impossible to understand all the senseless deaths of African Americans, including George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and too many others whose stories have been pulled into the national spotlight, as well as countless victims whose stories go untold. We at Giant Eagle have taken the time to self-reflect on what we as individuals and as an organization must do to stand up against racism and social injustice. Words are important, but they are not nearly enough. The time for action is now. And at Giant Eagle, we began a series of efforts that we hope will allow us and others to support our African-American team members, guests, and neighbors. The company and the Giant Eagle Foundation have partnered to contribute $350,000 to support social justice causes. Now, here's what's interesting here. Additionally, all our Giant Eagle Market District and GetGo locations will be closed between 7 and 8 a.m. this Saturday, June 13th, so we can engage our team members. Wait, that's not the interesting part. Here's here's the most interesting part here. In Western Pennsylvania, we have also made the decision to halt sales of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. So in response to what happened with the Post-Gazette censoring stories about police brutality, Giant Eagle, which is basically they have a near monopoly on groceries, they're not selling the newspaper anymore. Kind of interesting. Now I know this is, this is only one action, but, it's interesting that when the media engages in deliberate, as Brett said earlier in the show, and I like this term, propaganda, there's actually a price to pay for it. Now, I know most newspapers are distributed online and it's online subscription, so having a physical stand probably only contributes to so many sales anyway. How much or how little, I don't know. But still, that's a significant thing where the biggest grocery store chain in the area is no longer carrying your newspaper because you decided to engage in propaganda. And there needs to be more consequences like this. So that's an interesting follow-up on something we talked about earlier in the week. Now, we got another interesting follow-up. This one is a little lighter and fair. And you guys know me. Sometimes I like to end the week on something a little light. And this, coincidentally enough, has something to do with Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as well. So when Fee and Pasta from the Convo Couch were guests on the show, I had a kind of fun NFL story that I decided to do with Pasta. I don't really follow the NFL much anymore, but every now and again, Pasta and I'll talk football. So I thought it'd be a fun story to do with him. And here's what happened. We won't watch the video, but this is the video I put out. Ben Roethlisberger blocked me on Twitter.
We are being censored.
Wow. There we go. It just started anyway. All right. So Ben Roethlisberger blocks me on Twitter. That's something that happened. He blocked me on Twitter. And I found that out because I went to tag him in something, and I found out he had blocked me on Twitter. And what I went on to find out, I did a little sleuthing. Apparently, Ben Roethlisberger, for anyone who's not in the know, Ben Roethlisberger is the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's also one of the highest contributors to Blue Lives Matter, and he has 2 rape allegations. He's not a good dude, but he blocked me on Twitter, probably because there have been any number of times where I have tweeted at him and it was never flattering, including the most recent time where I couldn't tweet at him because I found out I was blocked by him. And then I found out apparently that Twitter account is run by his manager, and apparently he blocks everybody. That Twitter account, rather, blocks everybody. Whether or not it's actually run by him, I don't think we know for sure. But we definitely don't know for sure. They say it's like some manager, but who knows if that's actually the truth. But either way, Ben Roethlisberger's Twitter's account blocks people religiously. There's nothing, when I talked about it and did this video, a bunch of other people were like, I've been blocked by him too. So I dropped this video just a little while ago. It was on June the 7th. Today is June the 11th, so just 4 days ago. Well, check this out. Between now and then, here's what happened. Isn't this kind of interesting, folks? Check this out. The Big Ben block party is ending. This is from yesterday. Although Roethlisberger, this is according to the article, although Roethlisberger does not personally handle the Twitter account, he realizes that it's his account, verified with the blue check mark, and thus he's the one blocking people. So the block party is ending. The plan is to unblock all accounts, and implementation was due to commence on Tuesday. Now, look, I highly doubt that Ben Roethlisberger or anyone directly associated with him watches this show. I highly doubt it, but it's kind of interesting that a couple days after that video drops, all of a sudden, Ben Roethlisberger's Twitter block party is ending. I don't think there's any connection. I'm just saying, kind of a funny coinkamadink, right? That's a funny coincidence. So, well, let me see. Let me see if I'm currently blocked by Ben Roethlisberger. Let's see if I'm still blocked, or let's see if he unblocked me. What's his Twitter handle? I have to guess, I guess. Oh, yeah, here we go. I'm still blocked. Check it out. As of the recording of this, still blocked. They haven't unrolled the unblocking yet. Here, check it out. Show it to you. There's the proof. I am still blocked. I'm still blocked by Ben Roethlisberger. Man. I can't even tell what that's a photo of in his little photo there. That's Heinz Field. That's where the Steelers play. I'm still blocked. So they said the block party is ending. Well, the party is still going on for me. So I guess we'll see. That's breaking, folks. And that's real important. Anyway, let me see what y'all are saying. And I hope everyone is having a decent Thursday. And I hope everyone is staying safe. And I hope everyone is staying well. And shout out again to Brett Hamill for popping in for a little bit and filling us in on what's going on in Seattle. That's kind of crazy what's going on there. And shout out to everyone out there. Seattle is one of my favorite cities. I lived there for 3 years, and it's got a special place in my heart. Anthony Chisholm, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. And Anthony shares big Black Lives Matter march and strike in Seattle Friday at 2. That's awesome, Anthony. And if you're up there, stay safe and stay well. And if you're in the Chaz, I hope you're having a good time. That's cool stuff. Guys, thank you so much for being part of this. We will be back on Monday. That'll be the next official Get Your News On With Ron stream on Monday. Same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.